Today I have an album from one of the pioneers of Canadian death metal. I know most of my videos of this channel have been classic rock or classic heavy metal, but I like some of the more extreme metal genres. And in this video, I will be talking about a band that's been around since the 90s. It's an album that came out during the pandemic, and it might appear to be just a straightforward death metal album, but there's actually a lot more going on. They incorporate a lot of variety in their songs. So you're going to notice when I talk about the album, some of the songs on the second half of the album differ from the first. The name of the album is Unconquered by the band Kataklysm, which came out in 2020. I'm going to show you my vinyl record first, and I filmed that separately, and then I'll get more into the album and the songs and all of that good stuff. Let's take a look at the album cover. Here's the title, Kataklysm Unconquered. And on the cover, you see this demonic creature, which is actually the band's mascot. And I'll have some trivia about him in a minute. Let's flip it over. Here is the track listing of the songs. And you can see side A and side B. And here are some liner notes, where it was produced and all of that good stuff and the equipment that they use, and the Nuclear Blast logo here. Inside is an insert with all of the lyrics, so you can see all of that right here, and I'll just scan through that a little bit so you can take a look. And let me flip it over. Let me go back a little bit. Here is the lead singer of the band. Here's a photo of them live. And here's a quote by Nietzsche: "Without music, life would be a mistake." And here are the band members: Maurizio Iacono on vocals, JF Dagenis on guitar, Stefan Barb on bass, and Ole Bodon on drums. My apologies if I'm butchering those names. Finally, here is the vinyl. Pretty cool looking red splatter vinyl, and with the Kataklysm label, and that's side B. And it looks pretty cool. Let me take a look at that really quick again, and let's get back to the video. Kataklysm is a Canadian death metal band that formed in Montreal, Quebec in 1991. They are one of the pioneer death metal bands from the Canadian scene, and they have been putting out albums consistently ever since their formation. Their early sound was characterized by speed and technicality, and even coined the term Northern Hyperblast to describe their style. Their albums featured fast and precise drumming, blast beats, and aggressive riffs. Their sound has evolved over their career. They started to incorporate more of a groove metal and melodic death metal sound, but the music was still very brutal. They are labeled as death metal, but there are other influences in their sound, which makes them very unique. The band has released 15 studio albums, which is impressive for a death metal band, but today I want to talk about their 2020 album, Unconquered. The album was released on September 25th, 2020. This is their 14th studio album. It was released on Nuclear Blast Records. The album was another strong entry in the band's discography. It both showed the evolution of their sound, while at the same time showing that they haven't lost any of their aggressiveness. The album title, Unconquered, also has a special meaning for the band. It was released a few months after the start of the 2020 pandemic. Vocalist Iacono Maurizio explained that the title reflects themes of fighting back and overcoming challenges. He stated that the album is a rebirth of aggression for the band. He used the term positive aggression as it was born from the pressures and injustices he witnessed in the world. Many of the lyrics are deeply personal for Iacono, especially those that address his own struggles with anxiety and his observations of societal issues. In general, the album continues the band's blend of brutal death metal with melodic groove-oriented elements. The album has a heavier and more modern sounding guitar tone with more of a low end, slightly reminiscent of the gent genre. The album still has the band's signature speed and aggression, especially in the drumming, which is one of the aspects of this band that makes them great. The album still has lots of dynamic song structures, strong riffs, and catchy choruses. There's a nice balance of intensity with more melodic moments, and this is more apparent on the second side of the album, which I will talk about in more detail as I go through the songs. As for the album cover, the album is bringing back their mascot, which they call the Heart Beast. It was created by Blake Armstrong. This mascot has appeared on some of their past albums, such as In the Arms of Devastation, Prevail, and Heaven's Venom. Let me bring it a little closer. The band decided to bring the character back just to unite older and newer fans. Tuomas Saukonen from the band Wolfheart is on one track, Cut Me Down, and the band also has a tendency to include short movie quotes in the intros or outros of the song, but they didn't do that with this album for some reason. The album opens with the Killshot, a song with a slow and ominous intro that builds up with these creepy and haunting sounds before exploding into some brutal death metal with crushing guitar riffs. You immediately notice guitar sound having more of that modern djent sound, but it still sounded like death metal. There was a lot of speed in the rhythm, and there were the signature deep guttural vocals, which are understandable if you listen closely. The song also has some blast, some old school tremolo picked guitar riffs. The song has a very heavy yet accessible sound, and I thought it was a good way to start the album. Also some catchy moments where he says, "This is a kill shot." I thought it made the song much more memorable. The album continues with track number 2 called Cut Me Down, and it begins with lots of speed and some energetic guitar riffs. The vocals are very angry. You could hear the tremolo-picked guitar riffs in the verse section as part of the rhythm, but when they get to the chorus, the song became more melodic. Not too melodic as to continue with the speed and aggression. I also noticed some variety in the vocal style, so I thought it made the song more memorable. I thought the song had a nice balance between the aggression and the melodic aspects that the band was going for, and the song also ends on a quieter note. We get to the third track called Underneath the Scars, and this is a pretty cool play on words when you think about it, but it one continues with the sound they're going for, some of that mid-paced death metal, lots of chugging, and the powerful drums that this band is known for. I also noticed they're starting to bring in a little bit of that melodic death metal sound that came in during the chorus, but it didn't take away from the heaviness of the album. I also noticed that there's some double bass drumming towards the end of the track. That's always something enjoyable to hear when listening to death metal. Track number 4 is called Focused to Destroy You, and I thought this one had more of a modern sound. You could tell the guitars were tuned down a little more. They used more atmospheric sounds in the background. Kind of sounds like keyboards. I'm not sure if there are electronic sounds, but that's what it sounded like. But I would say it's still a very fast-paced death metal song with lots of aggression and fast-paced drums. I also think out of all the songs, this was the one where the lyrics were understandable. It's basically a revenge song, and I don't really know the meaning behind it, but the lyrics are talking about a particular person who betrayed another person, and said person is out for revenge, and they want to do various things to them. The song has a chorus that's repetitive. It's memorable. Actually, let's take a look at some of these lyrics. It says, "Focus to destroy you. Where I come from, loyalty is life. You blink and you die. They cut you up for snitching. They bury you alive. I gave you a warning, but you stabbed me in the back. Honor something you can't buy. Now answer me in blood. Focused to destroy you." Pretty cool poetic lyrics, but also pretty awesome as well. Next song is track number 5, and The Way Back Home. This is the last song on side A. It marks the middle of the album as well. You hear the slight change in sound. It's a little slower, goes a little bit into the Death Doom territory. You hear the bass guitar more in the rhythm, and they're using more sustained power chords and melodic leads. So you can tell they definitely went for a different type of sound on this track. But with that being said, it still sounds like Kataklysm. They're not really going in a different direction. You could still hear the distorted guitars and deep death metal style growls. I also like the part at the end where they do these machine gun riffs, which is something I always like in metal or death metal. The song even has these little spoken word clips that are short but added in for different flavor. Side B opens with a song called Stitches. It's pretty straightforward. I think the guitar sounded a little more like traditional death metal. In other words, they're not really going for complexity. They're just going for a very hard driving sound. And I also felt this one was moving into a more melodic death metal direction. But with that being said, they picked up the pace towards the end with some blast beats and faster tremolo-picked guitar riffs. There are 3 more songs on the album. If you remember, I said that the second side was more melodic than the first one, but this is the exception to the rule because this song, it's called Defiant. It's just very fast, heavy, and brutal, but with that being said, it also has kind of a groove metal sound. I heard a little bit of a Lamb of God type of influence on this track. Probably the most aggressive track on the album. You can just hear the anger in the vocals. The penultimate track is called Icarus Falling, and it's the complete opposite of the previous track because at first it sounds like a power ballad. They have pianos, also heavy bass guitar, faster drum beats. Almost sounds like the beginning of a symphonic metal song, but then as the song progresses, they play some guitar riffs that are more reminiscent of traditional heavy metal. I thought it sounded like some 80s Iron Maiden, but they still had those harsh vocals that are representative of the band. In general, the song was much more melodic, with vocals that are more understandable than the rest of the tracks in the album, but it didn't depart from the core sound of the album too much. I like this one a lot. It's very atmospheric. You can hear the emotion in the vocals, and I think it might be the best song on the album. The final song is called When It's Over, which has a song title, I guess, strategically placed to signal the end of the album. I don't know if it's intentional or not, but it's another one that's a slower, a little more dense, a little more atmospheric. It has a sound that's like a mix of black metal and doom metal. It features some slower guitar riffs, but also some aggressive vocals that are not just the typical death metal style vocals. There are more of those higher pitched screams, more of those spoken parts towards the end of the song. It's definitely a different sounding type of song, but I liked it a lot. Let me know if you're a fan of Kataklysm or death metal, or are you interested in me doing videos of some more extreme metal genres, because I do have some of that in my collection. That's all. I know I haven't really done many videos about bands on the more extreme side of the genre, but on this particular channel. But let me direct you to a recent video I did on Painkiller by Judas Priest. I think that would be a good segue. Thanks for watching. Please give the video a like. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe if you have not already. I do content related to physical media on this channel. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.